From Snow and Cindy to Peter and Pino. Keo. I'm about to quiz you on the classics in this episode of Disney Jeopardy. The Disney that we know and love today does not exist without the early years. And once again, that's what this episode 110 of Disney Jeopardy, is all about. As always, I am your host, Bryan Perri, ready to quiz you on everything pre-1960 within this Walt Disney Company. So let's take a look at the board and see what you'll be quizzed on in the final themed episode of DJ. First up, it is classic submissions. Every single clue in this category is a fan-submitted clue from DisneyJeopardy.com. Again, they'll all have to do with things pre-1960. The second category you'll be playing, Walt Disney quotes. You'll just have to fill in the blank to complete the quote. The third category is title sequences. The fourth category, your theme park category of the week, it is early Disneyland. And the fifth and final category, as voted on by the Club DJ members, is Pinocchio. Who says it like that? Why did I just say it like that? That's definitely from something, right? Is that said in the movie? Someone say Pinocchio like that? I don't know. Whatever. Either way, Pinocchio won the poll. Yes. 45% of the vote. It defeats live-action Disney. Dumbo comes in last. Less than 1 out of every 4 people wanted Dumbo, which is sad because I've done 110 episodes of the show, and Dumbo is yet to have his own category. Maybe one day, big guy. Maybe one day. It doesn't mean that there won't be a Dumbo clue somewhere in the game, just not a Dumbo category. And with that, it is now time for the easiest round of the game, the Cupcake Round. Each of these clues are worth just 200 points each. As we take a look at the board and kick this game off with a classic submission. Let's check it out. Before he became known as Dumbo, the little elephant was given this name by his mother. Thank you, Tracy, for the clue. The correct answer is Jumbo Jr.
A happy birthday, dear. Dear me, what's his name?
Jumbo Jr.
Oh, Jumbo Jr., huh?
We're on to Walt Disney quotes for the first time. You'll have to fill in the blanks. It's kind of fun to blank, blank, blank. It's kind of fun to do the impossible. As we get ready for the first clue from title sequences, I will let you know how it is going to work. You might remember those old school Disney movies began with a list of credits. Now, obviously, all the movies usually wait till the end to show you the credits, but back in old school Disney, you would see the credits at the start of a film. So I will show you some credits from the start of a film, and based on context clues, usually the background, you might be able to tell what movie the credits are from. So with that, let's check out a title sequence. You'll have to name what movie it's tied to.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
And you can spot the mermaids right there. They, of course, are from Peter Pan. Okay, it's time for the theme park category of the week. Disneyland fans, your time has come. You better go 5 for 5 here. You've been wanting it. Let's see how you do. The 200-point clue goes like this. Built in 1959, this attraction originally opened with just 1 station rather than 2. That's right, it wasn't until the 1960s when Disneyland added the Disneyland Hotel station for the Disneyland monorail. The monorail only had 1 station at the very start, and that station still stands today in Tomorrowland. And here we go with Pinocchio. Maybe it's Geppetto. Does Geppetto say it like that? Does anybody say it like that? Let me know in the comments. Maybe I made it up. Maybe it's some parallel universe. Anyway, whatever. Here we go. Pinocchio for 2. The coachman from Pinocchio takes, quote, stupid little boys to this place before turning them into donkeys. Basically, the lesson I took from watching Pinocchio this week in anticipation for this episode was that if you want an all-expense-paid trip to this wonderful resort, Pleasure Island, all you have to do is be a stupid little boy. Honestly, Pleasure Island looks awesome. Doesn't it? Look at that. Roller coasters, free food, fun houses, the works. What's not to like about pleasure? Oh, the turning into donkey part. Might be worth it. On to the second round now. It's back to classic submissions. Let's see what one of you submitted. Mark Davis, Ward Kimball, and Ollie Johnson were just 3 of the 9 animators, a part of this famous group that Walt Disney named. That will be the 9 Old Men. Speaking of Walt Disney, let's finish off another one of his quotes. I only hope that we never lose sight of one thing. Blank, 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 blank. Let's fill those blanks in. I only hope that we never lose sight of one thing, that it was all started by a mouse. Here we go with title sequences for the second time today. It's worth 4. Well, you could have used the music, the font, or the wooden backdrop to determine the answer. That answer is Pinocchio.
Like a boat out of the blue.
Hopefully I threw some of you off because you didn't think I'd include Pinocchio in a different category besides its own, but hey, gotta keep you on your toes. Here comes Disneyland for the second time. The Disneyland Railroad originally only made 2 stops. Those 2 stops were located in these 2 areas of the park. Well, of course, you have the first stop, the most famous stop, Main Street, USA, which you can see right there as Walt Disney exits his locomotive on opening day in 1955. The second stop, the only other stop when the ride opened, was in Frontierland. Let's finish off the 400-point round. It's Pinocchio for the second time. Geppetto owns these 2 types of pets. He owns a cat and a goldfish. If you just said fish, that is fine. Their names, if you want an extra point, give it to yourself, are, give you a moment right there, Figaro and Cleo.
You say goodnight too.
Let's move on to the 600s now. It's another classic submission. The 3 caballeros are these types of birds. A lot of people haven't seen the film The 3 Caballeros, but they may have experienced the ride at EPCOT, the Grand Fiesta Tour, starring those 3 birds. The 3 birds are Donald Duck, so you've got Duck as one of the 3 answers. You've also got Jose Carioca, who is introduced in Saludos Amigos. He is a parrot. And finally introduced in The 3 Caballeros is Panchito, who is a rooster. Here comes Walt Disney quotes for the 3rd time. To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Blank is your land. The speech was said on opening day for Disneyland in 1955. The correct answer is Disneyland.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land.
On to the halfway point of the game. It's title sequences for 6. You saw a castle at the beginning of those credits. Does the castle belong to Aurora? Does it belong to Cinderella? Does it belong to someone else? It does not belong to someone else. It belongs to Cinderella. Here comes early Disneyland for the 3rd time. Uh-oh, it is a daily double, and not just any daily double, but the 3,000th clue in Disney Jeopardy history. Unbelievable. Hit the lasers, drop the confetti, cue the horn things that you hear in music nowadays. Yes, it's time to celebrate 3,000 clues. I do have a special announcement regarding this. I am going to start a new video series because I've done 3,000 clues in this show's history. I don't remember the answer to a lot of them, and I thought it might be fun for me to go back, pick a random episode, and to play against you guys because, again, There's a lot of information across 3,000 clues, so keep an eye out for me playing against you in Disney Jeopardy. That is a new video series I'll be dropping next month, probably. I'll pick a random episode, and then I'll drop those, not on Fridays, but maybe Tuesday or something like that. Anyway, make your wagers to see if you'll ace this daily double. It's once again about early Disneyland. Here is the daily double clue for early Disneyland. The ticket price for an adult on the opening day of Disneyland. Correct answer is $1. Yes, it's gone up quite a bit since then. And before you say, well, inflation. Well, inflation would have brought that ticket to about $11 today. And last I checked, I think it's a little more than $11 to get into Disneyland. Here comes Pinocchio for $600. This is how Pinocchio gets the whale to sneeze at the end of the film. He lights a fire inside of him.
Getting out? But how?
We'll make him sneeze.
Make him sneeze. Oh.
We move on to the 800-point round as we make it a little tougher in this episode of Disney Jeopardy. This three-letter titled film company appeared at the start of early Disney films as they were Disney's film distributor for nearly 2 decades. The logo appeared out of nowhere. The correct answer is RKO. On to Walt Disney quotes for the 4th time. It's worth 8. I love blank blank more than any woman I have ever known. Now, this quote is interesting because if you know anything about Walt Disney and his history, he loved his wife Lillian more than anything in the world. So where did this quote come from? Well, it came from word of mouth from Ward Kimball, one of those 9 old men during an interview. He claimed that Disney once said, I love Mickey Mouse more than any woman I have ever known. And I guess if anyone could beat Lillian, his wife, it's probably the big cheese. You know, I'm not going to hold that against the old boss. Here comes title sequences for 800. Correct answer, I mentioned it earlier, is the Three Caballeros. Here comes early Disneyland for 800. This kids-only attraction at Disneyland opened in 1957 and lasted just under 10 years. It was eventually donated to Marceline, Missouri. Back in the day at Disneyland, the Autopia side of the park was pretty much a giant freeway because you had the Tomorrowland Autopia, you had the Fantasyland Autopia, the Junior Autopia fits in there somewhere. And the correct answer here is the Midget Autopia. Yes, the kids-only version of the ride, which was the first one of the bunch to have that guardrail in the middle. And yes, it was moved to Walt's old hometown of Marceline before closing a decade later. Final clue before the 1000s belongs to Pinocchio. This is who Pinocchio is speaking to when his nose first starts growing for lying. Who is the Blue Fairy?
Weren't you afraid?
No, ma'am, but they tied me in a big sack.
That's right, the Blue Fairy comes down from the sky like Glinda, and then Pinocchio just lies to her face, and his nose grows because of it. 20 clues are down and 6 remain, but before we get to Final Jeopardy, you know what time it is. It is time for the most overly dramatic soundtrack infused unnecessarily spotlighted part of the game, the 1,000-point round. Hit it! All right, here we go. It's the final round of these themed episodes of Disney Jeopardy, the highly polarizing themed episodes. A lot of people loved them, a lot of people hated them. Next week, either way, it's going to be 5 random categories, with one of them selected by the club DJ members. We'll get to that in a little bit. Let's begin the 1,000-point round, though. It begins with classic submissions. Walt Disney made a cameo as himself in this 1941 film that combined live-action sequences and animation. The movie gave viewers a tour of how Disney's films were made in the Burbank studio during the early 1940s. This is an often forgotten but extremely fascinating movie if you're a Disney history buff. The correct answer is The Reluctant Dragon.
Man, fine. Am I? We're just going to run a new picture. You want to sit through it? Yeah, I'd love to. It'd be fine. You can roll whenever it's ready.
Check it out. You can find it on Disney Plus. Here comes your final Walt Disney quote of the game. Blank is America's most important export. The answer I'm looking for is laughter. Here's your final title sequence of the game. Let's see if you get it. What is Lady and the Tramp? This is the night. Early Disneyland's 1,000-point clue goes like this. Opening a month after the park, Disneyland opened a Quaker Oats-sponsored restaurant where guests would meet Eileen Lewis, a woman portraying this famous character. Who is Aunt Jemima? That's right, you can get your pancakes and waffles at Jemima's Pancake House at Disneyland. At least you were able to until about 50 years ago. Here comes your final clue of the game. It belongs to Pinocchio. On the screen here is the official conscience badge that Jiminy Cricket earned from the Blue Fairy at the end of Pinocchio. Underneath conscience, it lists how many carats in gold this badge is worth. The badge was worth this many. What is 18 carats?
Well, I'll be...
Jiminy, of course, earned that badge at the end of Pinocchio after the wooden puppet turned into a real boy. And speaking of real boys, shout out to the realest of them all, perhaps the youngest viewer in Disney Jeopardy history, Finnegan. And the Barton family, they sent me this picture of little Finn watching Disney Jeopardy, and I had to share it. This is awesome. I think he might be the youngest fan in show history. So hopefully you continue watching till you're about 21, and I'm doing like episode 2000 of this show, because that's probably where we're headed. No end in sight. Now, it is time for the one clue of the game that will ultimately determine how proud of yourself you will be for the next 7 days. It's Final Jeopardy. Let's check out the category that you'll be playing. Before and after. That's right, Before and After makes its return to Disney Jeopardy. If you've gone on to DisneyJeopardy.com, you may have noticed that you've been able to submit your before and after suggestions for the last few weeks, but now you better do it because the category is coming next week. Submit your best ones on DisneyJeopardy.com and maybe they'll appear in episode 111. But it's time to make your wagers on how well you think you could piece together a Disney before and after. And time is up. All right, here we go. Let's see the final clue in episode 110. It's Before and After. A concert opening tune from Powerline and Tony Stark's last line in Avengers Endgame. Good luck. And time is up. You might remember earlier in the game, the 600-point clue in the early Disneyland category wasn't actually worth 600 points because it was the Daily Double. Why was it the Daily Double? Well, that's because it was clue number 3,000. So I had to work 3,000 into Final Jeopardy somehow. What is this all leading to? Well, your correct answer. The opening tune from Powerline is Eye to Eye, and Tony Stark's last line is I love you 3,000. So your correct answer is Eye to I love you 3,000.
Everything's gonna work out exactly the way it's supposed to. I love you 3,000.
And that does it for your final themed episode of Disney Jeopardy. We're going back to the old format next week in episode 111. We do know one of the categories already, that is Before and After. If you want to submit your own Before and After clue, head over to DisneyJeopardy.com and do so right now. Shout out to all the Club DJ members who do it every week. I appreciate you all so very much. I hope you're excited about going to the old school format. You know what? Why don't you go vote right now in the poll to help determine a second category in next week's episode. Here are your three options. You might recognize them. They were all losers in polls over the last couple of weeks. So one of them, once again, will join before and after for episode 111. Now you know the deal. If you like what you saw, do me a favor, subscribe, click that bell icon. Hello, bell. This way, you're notified every time we come out with brand new content. I've been your host, Bryan Perri. I will see you next week for episode 111 of Disney Jeopardy. Until then.
Bye-bye.